What is an annoying myth people still believe? That if you touch a baby bird, its mother will abandon it because of the smell. Birds actually have a very crappy sense of smell. Then what's the truth of the matter? Can I put the babies back? Yes, you can put them back. Just 2 days ago I had to rebuild a robin nest and climb a tree to secure it and place the chick that survived back in. The mother was back within an hour. One chick left. Nest in different spot, made of trim lumber and the remains of the old nest. Wash your hands well afterwards. Yes, you can. Nothing will happen to the babies. And if the mother just so happens to kick a baby out of the nest, it's not your fault in the slightest. Wow, I fell for this one just a few days ago. I pick up a baby bat that fell out of its nest and quickly climbed up and put it back in the nest, and I did it as quickly as I could so that it would get less of my scent on it, even though I was wearing gloves. People think bats are blind. They aren't. I used to believe that rats become bats at some point in their lives. I was a dumb kid. That sound like something that would happen in Pokemon. Fish only have a 5-second memory. My fish are fed automatically on a timer and they know dinner time better than my goddamn cat. Yeah, we live on a lake and our neighbor feeds the fish every afternoon. He goes out on his dock and bangs a bucket, and literally hundreds of fish show up for the food. It's amazing. I'd love to know where this came from. I'm assuming it was to make people feel better about keeping goldfish in glorified Tupperware? That historical armor was basically useless, only increasing the chance of maybe deflecting a blow if you were lucky. You still see it in movies, shows and games where a knife or sword or arrow will go through armor like it's cardboard. In reality, armor was very useful. Very good armor, like a knight's suit of plate, made the wearer virtually invincible. The best plate could stop even early firearms. A knight in full plate and wielding a shield was pretty much the tank of the medieval battlefield. Doubly so if on horseback. Specialized weapons and a concerted effort was needed to defeat one. Although typically no one would try to kill a knight since you can't ransom a corpse. But even simple gambesons, which were made from layers of fabric, could resist a sword cut. High quality gambesons could resist all but the strongest cuts from specialized cutting swords. Also, that swords were super heavy. A typical one-handed arming sword from the Middle Ages weighed around 3 pounds. 4 maximum. A two-handed long sword could get up to 5 pounds. Rapiers weighed around the same as other swords, which is contrary to popular belief. Yes, swinging around a 3-4 pound object would tire someone out, but the people doing so were generally more fit than the people reading this thread. My god, how I despise this one. They out here saying a knight from the Middle Ages spent ridiculous amounts of money, lugged the stuff around with them on campaign, wore it even when it was hot out, and maintained clean their armor all so they can have a 2% less chance of death on the field. Lol. When it comes to warfare throughout human history, as a rule of thumb, if people did something often, meaning the idea was widespread and commonly used, it was probably because it was damn effective. Cracking your knuckles makes them bigger gives you arthritis. This is an ongoing battle between myself and my older co-workers. There was a guy who spent like 20 years cracking his knuckles on one hand but not the other because his mother told him cracking your knuckles was bad for you and he didn't believe her. A fake. It had no effect. That moth affair won an Ig Nobel Prize for that study. Medicine Prize. Donald L. Unger, of Thousand Oaks, California, USA, for investigating a possible cause of arthritis of the fingers by diligently cracking the knuckles of his left hand but never cracking the knuckles of his right hand every day for more than 60 years. Source. That companies can't say that you were fired, or why you were fired, by law. Can you tell me about what John was like when he was at your company? No, but would you like to hear about my dog? Sure. My dog is lazy, seldom turns up on time, can't get along with anyone, makes absolutely no effort to improve his performance and steals stuff out of the break room fridge. I wonder how far you could push that. My dog also lied about his qualifications and was caught having sex with a prostitute in the office after hours. It's also worth noting that regardless of whether or not they can, they often don't have to. Ignoring how infrequently references are actually called anymore. Whenever I did had to, the only questions I asked were did they leave voluntarily, and are they eligible for rehire, and that told me basically everything I'd need to know. The actual why is almost always irrelevant. Undercover cops have to tell you they're cops. I always thought this was a joke for sitcoms and sketch comedy. I thought the Showhouse MD approached this in a clever way. The doctors needed to figure out what drugs their patient had been taking, so they approach his drug dealer on the street. Naive doctor, we're not cops. If we were cops, then we'd have to tell you, right? Drug dealer, actually, you don't. But, if you were a cop, then you'd know that. How can I help you? Poor dumb badger. You have to wait 24 hours before filing a missing persons report. I blame movies. Oh, you know for a fact that your daughter has been kidnapped and is likely going to be murdered? Sorry, we at the police can do absolutely nothing because of reasons. Guess you're gonna have to get her yourself. In fact, by federal law, missing juveniles must be listed as missing within 2 hours of the report to police, no matter how recently they've gone missing, unless they are located within that time. Reported my sister missing when she was in high school. Police did nothing because she called us through one of those unknown numbers that just says unknown with no callback number. They said that since she contacted us, she doesn't count as a missing person. I mean, I guess she technically wasn't missing, but she ran away because my parents tried to ground her by taking away her phone, and no one had any idea where she could have gone. We went to the friends she had that we knew about, but they didn't know either. My dad found her about a week later, near the restaurant he worked at the time. The restaurant is like next to other stores and stuff, and her friends and her went into the grocery store nearby, and my dad was luckily on break in that store, saw her, grabbed her, and took her to the restaurant until his shift was over. Those friends she was staying with were planning to go to Mexico, and they were planning to sneak her across the border with them. None of us ever knew these friends of hers, so there was no way we would have found her if it wasn't for this stop at the grocery store. Police did nothing. I don't know how they are supposed to handle runaways vs actual missing people, but that was not a good time for our family. This is an important one. Lives could be saved. If you lift your hands above your head while pregnant, you will strangle the baby. I am sure it was started by smart women who didn't want to do all the housework while pregnant and tired. I still hear it every now and again. At some point, a viral video allegedly proved that the beg buttons at crosswalks are just placebos. Some of them are, but most of them really do add a cycle for pedestrians to get a walk signal. You should use them regardless. I once had cross a street with heavy traffic and knew that the button was fake, so I just waited at the crosswalk, but the light never changed. The second I pressed the button, it changed. I tried the same thing on the way back, and pressing the button instantly changed the light again. I guess there was so little pedestrian traffic and so much vehicular traffic that it made sense to only change the light when there was actually a pedestrian trying to cross. You can detox your body from toxins and parasites by drinking certain teas or taking some weird medication. Repeated diarrhea and frequent urination doesn't indicate toxins leaving your body. Your liver and kidneys do the job. If your liver is not functioning or you have a kidney disorder, obviously you need help, but it won't be teas that someone on Instagram is boasting about. I remember hearing a doctor on the radio field questions about a colon cleansing that is basically an enema with, I assume, cold coffee. His response was something like, yeah, it technically works, but it's your colon. It's not going to stay clean for very long. TLC's My Strange Addiction had a whole episode about this couple who are addicted to their coffee enemas, Florida, so go figure. Also, some of those detox drinks can drastically worsen kidney or liver problems. They aren't regulated. You mean my lead tea isn't safe to drink? The Great Wall of China is the only man-made structure visible from space. First of all, it's not. And second, other ones are. Which other ones are visible from space? Any Home Depot parking lot? That myth about how NASA invented ballpoint pens for space while the USSR just used pencils, basically completely untrue. It's always the guy that was the biggest idiot in high school sharing that on Facebook too. Like, bro, you really think you're smarter than NASA? Yeah, pencils are such a bad idea in a zero-G environment with recirculated air. Graphite can conduct electricity and is really small. Kind of a bad idea to have tiny pieces of pencil lead in your electronics.